Hi, my name is Robin Russell. Sorry about the false alarm before, but we've got a presentation here today based on the presentation I gave last week at the International Football Coaching Convention in Geneva, which was part of the International Sports Convention. So this particular presentation is about using the web to support soccer coach education. The aspects we're going to look at will be these, and we're going to end by looking at how we can use the web to assist to hopefully solve some of the problems in coach education. I'm assuming that we all have the same objectives in coach education. We want a high percentage of teams with coaches who've been trained, whether they be male or female coaches or whether they're male or female teams. We want a stable and consistent workforce. We want a low percentage turnover of coaches. We want increased growth in the number of players and obviously maintaining those in retaining the players. And lastly, and not leastly, we want increased quality of performance of our players and teams. We've done quite a bit of research at SportsBath over the last year with over 1,000 coaches, and very grateful for those coaches for completing the survey. In fact, we've looked at a number of surveys, and those are particular aspects that we've looked at. Problems in recruiting and training coaches, problems faced by rookie coaches, how coaches use the web, and indeed the budget per player that clubs have to be able to devote to coach development. If you'd like to see that research, you can pick it up there on our website, sportsbath.com, under the projects file. So these are the trends that we've identified in soccer coach education. There's more instruction. There are more courses. When I did my FA coaching courses in the 1970s, there was 2 levels: a preliminary award, which was a week, and a full award, which was 2 weeks. Now there are much more levels in England and really throughout the world. There are specialist courses for goalkeepers, for youth coaches, for futsal coaches, for coaches who have a particular aspect that they want to develop in fitness or analysis. CPD is quite rightly required now to make sure that your coaching qualifications are current and that you yourself are undertaking some professional development. There is increasingly alternative credentials available. There are courses run and certificates provided by other groups apart from national football associations. For example, Geneva Coaching, or World Football Academy, or Rennie Mullenstein, or indeed the NSCAA. They are providing, they are meeting a demand that is obviously there. In all of this instruction, the vast majority of it is still location-based education by appointment. It's one size fits all. By that I mean you have to turn up at a certain time, at a certain venue to receive your education. But more coaches are needed. There's been a phenomenal growth in youth soccer, in organised youth soccer over the last 15, 20 years. While street soccer and informal soccer has decreased, organised youth soccer has increased quite dramatically. That requires not only more coaches, but coaches who can deal with younger children, often as young as 4 or 5 years of age, for boys and girls, for a lot longer periods than was the case years and years ago. There are much more holiday courses and camps available now for children. There are more children's coaching franchises. And therefore, parental expectations are that where they are parting with money, they expect coaches to be qualified, and they expect them to be experienced and knowledgeable in how to deal with how to deal with children at particular ages. It's also a requirement in many countries now for the coach to have certain basic qualifications. In Europe, it would be UEFA qualifications to work in an academy, to work in a professional club, and certainly to work in clubs that are entering UEFA Cup competitions. New competencies are required. As I mentioned, that because coaches are working with children at a much earlier age, they need to know more about children. Steve Highway, the former academy director at Oval Football Club, said he wanted his coaches to know more about children than they did about football. So the requirement for coaches is increasingly on having a much wider knowledge and experience of how children learn, what is most appropriate for them at various ages. With all this activity, there is more revenue in soccer coaching. We would estimate that the market for soccer coach education is over $100 million a year. But only a very, very small percentage of that is devoted to online learning options, or indeed learning on demand. There is quite a bit of work done on the 70-20-10 principle. This indicates in all walks of life that we learn how to do the job, any job, by doing it. And 70% of how you learn to coach or teach is actually doing it. 20% is the help you get on the job, informally, by colleagues, and 10% is through formal courses. I know I trained to be a teacher, and however interesting the lectures in college were, and however valuable we thought they were, we didn't really start to learn how to teach until we were doing teaching practice in schools. So this principle of having more work-based learning is being seen in coach education. In Holland and Ireland and Denmark, there's a lot more emphasis now placed on coach education in the clubs. And this devotion to work-based training and indeed professional development is shown in the growth of national and international coach association. The NSCAA in the USA and the FA Coach Association in England now have far, far greater numbers than ever they had before. So those are some of the trends that we've been able to indicate in soccer coach education. What are the problems? There is still a lot of countries where there is a large number of coaches without any training. Even in Germany, they would estimate that they are 100,000 teams without a qualified coach in charge of them. And in Holland, they would say that between 30 and 40% of their coaches turn over every year. So low numbers, particularly in grassroots, of qualified coaches and a high turnover of coaches. Can time challenge coaches in our busy lives? Can they attend courses? Location-based training isn't always the most appropriate for the grassroots coach. And the cost of training is getting higher. Budgets from youth soccer clubs, where we've investigated, showed that they're only providing roughly about $5 per player towards the education of coaches. And is it merely the responsibility of the national or state association to educate coaches? If this was an analogy with teaching, we would say, is it just the training colleges or the universities that have the responsibility to train teachers? No, it isn't, because more and more schools are taking up that particular responsibility, just as more and more hospitals are involved in medical education in conjunction with universities. So, how can the web assist in coach development? And there's two aspects: online learning and online performance support for coaches. Basically, looking at online learning, there are three possible potential areas of interaction. There's the learner with the content, the learner with the tutor, and the learner with other learners. A brief explanation. Learner interacting with the content. That's where the learner reads something, views a screen, and then answers quizzes or multiple choice questions. This can be quite off-putting for adults. Whilst it might tick boxes and allow people to say, well, they have completed courses, the educational value of learner to content is very limited. You're not quite sure who's doing the course, because it could be their next door neighbour or their friend or their colleague. And so it is better, wherever possible, to try and involve other interactions with learner content courses. And the two most successful are involving the tutor and involving other learners. For example, if you have a tutor, you could use telephone, you could use Skype, you could use webinars with questions, you could use email, you could ask the students to respond to the tutor's blog. It could be a response to scenarios that the tutor has put up and posted on the web. But there is an interaction. The biggest problem that most online learners have is they feel isolated and lonely. And unless studies have shown that, unless there is some aspect of learner tutor and learner support, the percentage of students who actually complete the course will be very low, sometimes below 10 or 15%. Learner to learner is obviously very important, going back to our 70-20-10 principle, and that we share with colleagues, we share with other learners, we learn from other learners. The research we showed that there's an ecosystem of tweeters and bloggers in soccer coach education, where certain tweeters have got over 20,000 followers, where certain bloggers have got over 10, 15,000 followers of their blog. So tapping into this ecosystem is very important in providing really, really useful online learning, where you can share and build a library of searchable content. You can use collaborative tasks. You can critique each other. These may not be just text. There's a new tool out at the moment called Flipgrid, which allows students to provide comment in short 60 seconds video clips. And from our experience on the LMA School of Football Management courses, we've had about 2,000 students, learners on that course, but they've created over 15,000 pages of user-generated content. So, in online learning, of the three aspects, which is the best to maximize 70-20-10 learning? Where will the biggest growth be? And where will the greatest benefit of mobile learning be seen? Obviously, a good plan would involve all three. And I would suggest to you that a plan that doesn't include learner to tutor and learner to learner learning will actually have very low percentage completion and won't meet the needs of the coaches. So what's happening at the moment? A number of associations are providing support to face-to-face courses. So they use the web to provide pre-course tasks. It's a resource archive, the session formatting and evaluation. For example, many would use Dropbox. The Irish Football Association has just developed a resource using very much the resources that are available to them, but including session format using Academy Soccer Coach. And they can actually review sessions before the coaches coach them. There are pre and post course tasks. Another major area is to support CPD and continuing education. So standalone courses in specific disciplines and specific target groups. The Danish FA have targeted online modules specifically for female coaches. The NSCAA have a vast range of webinars with question and answer for a whole range of courses involving hundreds and hundreds of coaches at any one time. The German FA has a vast range of free resources for its coaches to support face-to-face interaction. So, is there learner to content interaction? Yes. Is there learner to tutor? Limited. Is the learner to other learners? Extremely limited. An exception would be a course run by the NSCAA and Ohio University, which includes all aspects of interaction, but those courses are few and far between. We did some research and we asked coaches, are you involved in coach education in some respects? And 80% of them said yes. Most of these coaches are honestly qualified coaches, so it's reasonable to assume that 80% of coaches, either formally or informally, do try and help other coaches. And 90% of this group said that they use the web to support the development of fellow coaches. And there's the range of web tools that they use, the most common of which being emailing and posting articles on the club or association website. But a third of them said that they had set up some sort of dedicated space designed specifically for coaches at their club. Well, I think that was particularly interesting because that shows that they are trying to integrate aspects into one particular area. And if you do that, it does allow you to provide that sort of interaction and this sort of interaction for all your coaches. So we asked them, why did they do this? Why did they set up an online learning network? Obviously, they wanted to support the practical coaching. They wanted to reduce coach turnover. But critically, they wanted a central place to integrate content, sessions, videos, and ideas. They wanted to encourage interaction, to communicate, yes, the philosophy of the club or the association, but in a time and cost-effective way that was convenient and personal for coaches. And somehow it had to be easily updated. Which tools were they using? A range, but not an enormous range. The mainly free tools, so WordPress, the range of Google tools that you can see there, blogs, a little bit of Facebook, although I'd have to say fewer and fewer coaches seem to be using Facebook for coaching aspects, but they would rather keep Facebook for personal aspects and use one of those other tools for coaching. They could use these with other free tools like YouTube and Twitter and Google Hangout, Scoop It. And if they wanted to, they could integrate it with paid services like Academy Soccer Coach, Session Planners, or Huddle. But those who were using online learning networks as a central space were in the main using free tools. A few were using subscription online networks, and the most popular of those was S2S from our friend in Norway. So, what skills did they need to learn so that the director of coaching was empowered? Well, the biggest aspect was how to engage the coaches, how to devise tasks, how to facilitate them talking to each other. Yes, how to film and edit video was very, very important. But the most important aspect that the coaches said was that they wanted to make sure that the coaches in their club or their association used the network that was set up. So just some examples. This is the Lone Star Soccer Club in San Antonio, Texas, and the director of coaching there. Nick used a very simple tool, Google Hangout, as you can see, using lots of video, and as you can see, involving quite a number of the coaches at that club in what he called the virtual clubhouse. And you can see the range of coaches that have been using this particular resource. Another one was the New York Rush Patriots, and Steve, the director of coaching there, used Scoop It. Again, getting both the players this time and the coaches involved in using this particular resource to help support player development and coach development. And in this particular instant, Coach Drew in the Pacesetter Soccer Club in Toledo is using Facebook. He's pasting and posting a lot of material for his players and his coaches in this site. But you also see that he's integrating with some learner to content material in the tactical situation tests from NSCAA. So what are the overall opportunities of online learning and online performance support? The National Association have an online learning plan. Definitely involve your current tutors so they do not feel threatened. Provide video before sessions so that you are flipping the session for course readiness. Providing online CPD as an option for CPD, I think, is very important. But to make sure this happens, identifying champions amongst your coaches that are enthusiastic and happy to be using social media and new media so that the National Association can tap into those ecosystems that I mentioned previously. And they may want to focus, national associations may want to focus on accreditation and allow clubs to train coaches. to meet the demand for more quality coaches, particularly at grassroots level. As far as clubs are concerned, have an online learning plan as well. Ian Barker of the NSCAA, in one of his webinars, highlighted these 5 C's of club development: club culture, club communication, club collaboration, club consistency, and club competencies. And I would submit that all of those 5 C's, as part of an online learning plan, can be enhanced by using the web. And to promote that, starting next year, we've initiated an award for the best online network for a youth soccer club, that's using the web to support its coach development. The first prize is $1,000, and if you'd like to see more details, go to our website, and under the consultancy tab you will see the details of that. So those were the 5 common objectives I believe most national associations and most clubs would strive for using their coach education program. I think the web can't provide all the answers, but it can help and support meet those objectives. And if you'd like to know more about how the web can help coach education, please have a look at our website, where you'll be able to see our materials there. Thanks very much indeed. Goodbye.